Howdy. Welcome to my shop. My name's Ron and I'll be your host for the next 10 minutes or so. Being a fourth generation carpenter, wood is that's my language. It's my living, it's my hobby, it's my passion. One of those passions is making stocks. I've never had any formal training in this. I just wanted to put a piece of wood on a gun one day, and I seemed like that'd be a pretty unique challenge, so I tried it. And been going at it ever since, but honestly, I owe a lot of my success to my customers, my friends that have suggested this or that, different ways of doing it to produce a better outcome. And so I appreciate them. I owe them a great deal. The finish that I use was suggested by a friend of mine that owns a gun shop in Georgia, a guy named Dan. I've been friends with him for many years, and I owe him for that knowledge. So I don't suggest that my way is the only way. That's just not the case. I picked up my abilities to do this from watching other people and seeing other things and then figuring out how to do that. So it's a process. Some ways are better, cleaner, faster. They require less effort. On and on it goes. And I'm open to learning new and better ways. I'm always looking for that. My grandfather used to say, never let a day go by that you don't learn something. So when I do, I'll often look up, thanks, Pop, because no matter how old you get, you still need to be learning new things. So come on in, see what's going on today. Howdy. Today I'm going to start something I don't do a lot of, but I do pistols as well as long guns. Just most of the time I'm working with long guns. A friend of mine has this Detective Spcl Colt, and it's got some really thin. They're not aftermarket. They're actually, at least from his understanding, they are factory, but they're the imitation pearl grips. And I've already taken the screw out of them, so they will fall off. But anyway, he wants a fatter grip. These are pretty thin. Once you put them together, the butt end of it, they're still just not that thick. He needs a little bit more of a handful, So I'm going to put him some wood grips on here, some walnut. And so I just thought maybe somebody might want to do this, and something that I could do would help someone to go there. Just do it themselves. And so we'll pull these off, and we're going to put some walnut. I've got some pretty nice walnut here. It's a fairly pretty piece of wood. It's not very thick, about 5/8. I'm going to thin that down to about a half when I get the blanks cut out. But see how this has got this arched pattern? I'm going to turn the grips that way, so that arch, this back part of it comes right up the back strap. Something like that. That's what I've ended up with there. You can see the pencil lines maybe. A lot of times if this piece of wood is thick enough, I will just cut one piece and then split it down the middle here and then flip them back to back. And that way your grain that comes from the inside ends up on the outside, and it's a book match. But this piece is not thick enough to do that, but it is very symmetrical this way. So it'll look like I did that. I'm going to go cut these out on the bandsaw. Be right back. Alright, I cut these out, and I've left very little extra, maybe a 32nd around here and there. And I thinned them down to a 1/2 inch. And my saw cut, where I've got on the back, is a more like a machine surface. And so when I turn these things back to back, the grain on one side looks very similar to the grain on the other side. Now I have another piece I can use to work on this. This was my father-in-law's Cobra, and a Cobra and a Detective Special are identical in shape. They are just the pins, the cylinders, the barrels, they're identical. The only difference is the Cobra's got an aluminum frame and it's about 5 ounces lighter. But this one is not in near as good a shape as my friend's Detective Special. And so if I use this one to work on and to fit, and then I can ultimately do my final fitting onto the real one. But this keeps me from messing up anybody's gun. Not that I do that. I've had a pretty blessed life. I've not messed up things. I kind of take it easy and slow. So what I'm doing is fitting this top edge where this is round right there. That goes right against that. It doesn't go overlap it. Some pistol grips actually overlap that part and come up here onto the frame. This grip doesn't. It goes right up against that little round area. So I'm going to be fitting that, and as soon as I get that fitted, there's a pin right there on both sides. And when I get that fitted, then I'll just put light pressure on that and mark that pin and drill that. And that's my location. It goes from this curve to that pin, and those two things hold it together and keep it from wiggling. Of course, your screw in the middle presses them into that pin and like that. So it's a pretty simple machine. It's basically just cut out whatever's hanging over the edges and trim off this right here. Alright, that one pretty much looks like it grew there. Now I'm going to put pressure. I'm going to even the distance up on this grip to this frame. I'm going to even it back and forth, make sure my overhang all the way around, I have something to trim off. And then I'm going to put a little pressure and mark that pin. That's pretty much even all the way around. And I'm just going to use my fingers. I'm just going to squish it in there. That put me a little indentation, if you can see that. There's a little tiny mark, and that's all I need. Now I'm going to get this other side fitted. And when I put that in there, put a little pressure that direction, and I'm just going to wiggle that. And what it's going to do is put a scuff mark. Can you see that little dark scuff mark right there? And a couple right there. And one little one right there. We're dealing with just a few thousandths of an inch where it's just barely touching it. Alright, that fits pretty good. Even it up. A little pressure. I want to add a little pressure and a thump. Now the diameter of this pin, 1/10, is 0.100. Now what I have done is shifted that hole ever so slightly away from here. So when that pulls up against that pin, it'll actually push the grip tight into that where it's seated up inside that semicircle. Alright, I didn't have a drill bit that's exactly 1/10 of an inch. I don't have metric bits. But this is a it's a 3/32, and it's 10 thousandths smaller than that hole, and I'm okay with that because when I get it close to that hole and I put some pressure, I'll probably literally put a C-clamp across these things as they're in the frame is in between them, and I'll squeeze them, I'll squish them, and that'll make its own hole, and it'll be a really, really good snug fit, which it needs to be in this case. All right, that kind of goes on there. I mean, I got it located, and I can just push it on with my hand. All right, my blanks are fitted. There's excess wood all the way around that'll have to be trimmed off. That part I do by hand. And then they'll have to be removed and then sanded and shaped. Of course, the top will taper in on both sides, and this will be rounded, kind of ovaled out right here. And then I've got some the Colt emblems ordered from NC Ordnance, what they call gungrips.com. So, but there's no screws in it, nothing. It's just stuck there. I took this panel off and just went ahead and set it on the platform. Now I'm going to put it back on, get it back in place, and drill through to this other side so that those two holes are in perfect alignment when I go to put the bolt in. When I get that outside edge done from there around to there, I'll pull this off and put it on a block of wood that I can put that block into my vise, and I'll put it on something that it'll be similar to that, where it'll just sort of hang off all the way around. Just a little stick is all I'm going to stick it onto, so I have access all the way around with nothing interfering with my filing. That mounting hole is right up next to the edge of this hole. I guess they put that in there to keep it from being so heavy and for balance. And so that mounting hole is right next to it, which is a really good strong place for it to be. It'd be better there than way over here in the middle of that, where it would be trying to act like a trampoline pulling in on that. Of course, it's a substantial piece of wood, so it's not going to pull in too far. But the design of it is good.